Let's talk about Representative Louie Gohmert, one of the absolute goobers of the House. Louie Gohmert does not take this pandemic very seriously, and he has not from the very beginning. He told CNN last month that he was not wearing a mask because he was being tested regularly for the coronavirus. Now, this is after, by the way, already representatives, it's a huge list, a bunch of them, mostly Republicans, one Democrat, had already tested positive for the virus, alongside Senator Rand Paul, so he was fully aware that despite the fact that all of them were getting tested, some of his colleagues were coming down with it. And, like with Rand Paul, potentially spreading it to other people before their relatively persistent testing actually picked up on it. You might remember that back March 9th, he returned to Congress despite potentially being exposed to the coronavirus at CPAC, saying he's advised by the CDC that going into self-quarantine isn't necessary. Yeah, I'm sure that's what they told him. So, look, he just didn't take it seriously, and perhaps it's because he was fairly convinced this entire time that he had the solution. It was a powder that might have been involved with hydroxychloroquine. It wasn't really clear when he talked about it, but he said it's being used in Germany as a mist. Healthcare workers go through a misting tent going to the hospital, and it kills the coronavirus completely dead. Not only right then, but anytime in the next 14 days that the virus touches anything that's been sprayed, it's killed. You'll be shocked to find out that's all nonsense. But it was reassuring to Louie Gohmert, and it might explain why Manu Raju, reporter, said, "I've spent a lot of time in the House gallery watching Gohmert frequently interact with colleagues and not wearing a mask. He doesn't maintain social distance and talks at length with members. When I asked Gohmert, he said he would wear a mask if he got COVID." So look, all of this irresponsibility and then that pledge means that you know exactly where this story is going. Representative Louie Gohmert is tested positive for the coronavirus, according to multiple sources. Because of course he's going to. He's a moron who doesn't care about his own health or the health of people around him, and he runs around talking about dust mist. What do you think, Jordan? You shocked?
No. And yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. I don't know if I want to laugh or just cry or what, because I mean, it's ironic that he got it. It's kind of funny. You don't really feel bad for him because he knew the risks. He was in a position to know way ahead of everybody else. Congress knew at the onset, and he took no precautions. And his ignorance also impacted how he responded. Him and congressional Republicans have treated this as a complete joke. And we've seen everything from just delayed response to an inadequate response in different relief bills, wanting to cut unemployment benefits. And now they're trying to push money toward the defense industry, toward weapons and F-35s when people are struggling. So it's like this guy kind of got his comeuppance, but I don't think he'll even learn. That's the thing. I think he'll just, because he's going to have great healthcare treatment, which is something that millions of people around the country don't have. He's going to be fine, probably.
Yeah, he'll probably be fine, as all of them are. And of course, I want him to be. You know, hate him. I've hated him for a long time. I don't want him to be sick, and I don't want him to spread it to other people that are not in charge of how irresponsible he is. I have someone that I know that is in a very bad way thanks to coronavirus. My heart goes out to literally anyone who's going through that, including Louie Gohmert's family that's probably very worried about his health and probably was worried about his behavior prior to him getting it. But anyway, as you said, now is the time for him to change his behavior because finally it has actually happened to him. And as Manu Raju said, he said that if he gets it, he's going to wear a mask. He's going to be more responsible. But if you watch his channel, you probably know where this is going. According to Catherine Falders, Representative Gohmert went back to his Capitol Hill office after testing positive for COVID-19 at the White House. The question now is, where does he quarantine? Probably at work, because I doubt he's going to take it any more seriously now than he was, because as soon as he finally was diagnosed with, again, a fatal illness, he went back to work. How many people work at his office? I don't know. Hopefully none were in the office at that time, but probably some were. Hopefully they're taking it more seriously. The entire thing is just so sad. I was talking to my mom yesterday, and she was talking about how shocked she was at how selfish everyone was being. That she walks around Florida, and even after this huge spike, nobody wears masks. And I said that my theory has always been that we all have a circle that has to be breached before we take things seriously. And that circle is a different size for different people. For some people, it's the size of the world. If something happens somewhere in the world, you're going to have empathy for those people. It doesn't matter how dissimilar they are from you. And then for a lot of people, the circle just gets progressively smaller. It could be the country, or it can be your race, or your religion, or your neighborhood, or whatever. For some people, it is smaller than their own body, that even when they directly experience this, that is not enough to actually get through to them and cause them to change their behavior. We are too selfish of a country, too, enthralled with our own independence and feigned greatness for us to learn, for too many of us to learn anyway. And that is sort of sad in the best of times, and we are far from the best of times right now. And his sort of behavior writ large across a gigantic percentage of the American population is why we continue to have the problems with this pandemic that we do.
Yeah, I know. I think that even though it's a small anecdote, it's demonstrative of his kind of larger worldview. Going back to his office, just carelessly, putting his staff at risk, kind of shows how he sees and treats people beneath him. There were people, you might not have seen it, but there was another report that there were people in his office who were scrambling to get out before he got there because they didn't want to get it. Some people, sadly, were still there, and probably as he's treated every other interaction, he just didn't take any precautions. Yeah. So he now has put his staff in jeopardy. He's been at the Capitol Hill gym, I saw reported this morning, since contracting it. And yesterday, he was with Bill Barr. They were before the hearing or after the hearing. They were in close proximity.
Let's keep that going. That's fine. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, he was and the Republicans at the hearing yesterday were complaining that Nadler was telling them to wear masks. Dude, you guys were being exposed right then.
Yep.
And I think my wife told me that I think was it the wife or the mother of the Long Beach mayor? The mom passed away. There have been so many representatives, senators who've lost people. Elizabeth Warren had a relative who died. Maxine Waters had a relative that have died. Our representatives have generally been okay, shockingly. They've done very well, and no one in the White House has died, but lots of people have gotten sick, and some of their family members have died, and it's still not enough to get through to these people. You think Louie Gohmert's going to be much more responsible, speak more responsibly about it, tell his constituents to wear masks? I really doubt it. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.